Pastor Todd Dunbar from Philly, from Deliverance. God bless you, man. It's been a while. Give God praise for a friend I've known for a long, long time. God bless. Glad you're here. Glad you're here. I would like you to turn with me to 1 Samuel. And it is 1 Samuel chapter, I thought it was 17. Yeah, it's first chapter, Samuel chapter, 1 Samuel chapter 17. Now, I don't do Old Testament a lot, as you know, but I saw something here I thought would be inspiring. And oftentimes we see things out of our own situations and not out of the situations of others. And then sometimes it's the very reverse. I'm learning also that you preach things that you haven't experienced, and then you preach things about things you have experienced. And many times when you preach things that you haven't experienced, in its theoretical presentation, in its scriptural theoretical presentation, because you haven't felt it, then later God causes you to feel what it is you preached about, so that the next time you preach it not only from a theoretical platform, but you preach it now from having experienced it yourself. Is a critical piece, because when you look at the Old Testament, you have description. So you're going to deal with personalities, you're going to deal with events. When you look at the New Testament, you have definition, particularly in the epistles. And definition becomes a little bit more difficult to grasp, because now you need more cognitive energy and intellectuality to grasp the definition. When a preacher has trouble in his preaching, he tells a story, because people can identify to the anecdote better than they can to the definition and the intellectual prowess. One of the dangers, however, is that you spiritualize and you add things to the story that is not intended by the writers. So you have to be very careful. I'm talking to all these preachers I see right here. You have to be careful that you don't stretch it into something it wasn't intended to say. I'll give you an example, and I know you've heard it before. The man is in Jerusalem, and he went down to Jericho. And as he went down to Jericho, he fell among thieves. And the preacher, in his expostulating fervor, says that he had no business going down. Anytime you go down, things bad happen to you. Well, the truth is that the Bible wasn't dealing with anything moral or anything spiritual when he said he was going down to Jericho, because Jerusalem is in the mountain and Jericho is in the valley, and there's no way for him to go home unless he goes down. So the preacher has given fault and to the victim, and it's caused the victim to feel bad because he went down. He had to go down. He couldn't go up to go home. And so consequently, when you get into the story, you got to be real careful that you don't mess up the story with some point of view that the Bible is not trying to say. In this particular anecdote, what we have here is verse 17, and that is Jesse said to his son David, I need you to take something down to your brothers, an ephah of parched corn, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to thy brethren, and to carry these 10 cheeses unto the captain of their 1,000, and look how thy brother fare, and take their pledge. Now, I wonder whether, I never thought of this until I read it, that maybe Jesse was sort of trying to bribe the captains of his sons and make sure they're happy so they will be happy to watch out for his boys. And take their pledge. Did you see that? Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning and left the sheep with a keeper and took and went as Jesse had commanded him. He came to the trench as the host was going forth to the fight and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage and ran into the army and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the giant, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. Now God's army running. And the men of Israel said, have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him with great riches and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. Yet I don't see a whole lot of them running towards him. I mean, the king's got to promise you all that, and you in the army. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, what shall be done to the man that killeth this Philistine and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? And of course the people answered, so shall it be done to the man that kills him. You know, it is real interesting. We're going to sit back here expecting you to get killed. See, they expected David to get killed, particularly when he started talking. So you always have a group of folk who will sit in the background and push you out there. And sometimes people push you back, push you out, and then when you look for a backup, you by yourself. The folk who used to sit in your circle and talk about how supportive they'd be of you, many times you look back and can't find them. Amen. They push you out there to take on something for them. And now you get out there taking on something for them, and then you can't find them. They send them watch and see how you gonna come out. Ain't nobody rushing to get Saul's daughter. Ain't nobody rushing to get their house free in Israel. They just want to see who's gonna do it. Oh my God. And so now Eliab, now this is David's brother now. Eldest brother heard when he spake unto the men, and Eliab his anger was kindled against David. This is his family, who said, why comest thou? Then he said, why comest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart. For thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle. And David said, what have I done? Is there not a cause? There's a reason to be down here. And he turned from him toward another and spake after the same manner. And he kept on telling everybody who would listen to him that this Philistine uncircumcised should not defy the armies of the Lord. And it looked like he's all alone talking to them. Saul gives him his armor in 38. David refuses the armor because he said he didn't prove the armor, and he got him 5 smooth stones out of the brook. Verse 40, and put them in the shepherd's bag which he had, even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. The Philistine came, looked at David, had his sword and his shield, and said to disdained him. 42. For he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said, David, am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and the beasts of the field. Well, you know the story. David said to him, thou comest to me with a sword. Thou comest with a spear, with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee in my hand, and I will smite thee and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistine this day unto the fowls of the air and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. Look at somebody and say, once you get him down, let's do it another way. Once you get your giant down, take him out. Amen. Get him down and then take him out. It is imperative to understand that the issues of theology, and as one is looking, that the issues of theology and psychology are very pronounced when it comes to spirituality. Anytime you deal with a church family or even a personal family, it is significant to understand theology and psychology has to be in juxtaposition. You have to have psychology in juxtaposition with theology. I say that because it wouldn't make sense for us to be in here on Sunday nights, on Wednesdays, and watch a lot of stuff on TV and read scriptural and biblical books and it not affect our thinking. It becomes critical now that theology has to affect our thinking in a psychological way in order for us to be productive and to be as powerful as God has made us. It is true that there are certain things that form us and certain things that promote or diminish us as we go through life, and how one thinks about these things in reference to the Word of God helps us to either endure or to succumb. There has to be a mental response to the things that God says, and in this particular story, we're trying to figure out how one boy can be so bold and so trusting of God, and one boy can be so willing to put his life out there, believing that God will hold him up, and another boy in the same house can call him rude and arrogant and proudful because he believes God. See, many times you have to deal with people even in your own families, because oftentimes our decline or our psychological debilitation begins in the home. Somebody said to me after this morning's message that most people can't give to their kids what they don't have. I don't totally agree with that, but to a great extent, yes, our lack of ability and our inability to operate boldly can affect the children that we have, and in many times it does. But I've discovered also that theology, in the effort of prevention, if it comes too late, I'm so glad that the issue of intervention is significant. Let me just take that to the text. When you understand that, you have to know that intervention is intertwined in theological truth. But the truth is, if you don't know how to prevent something, then you don't know how to intervene. Because prevention, really, the idea of intervention is to bring the individual back to the place where prevention would have dropped them off. If you look in the text, you would understand that they would have no difficulties fighting the Philistines, that they wouldn't have to be fighting the Philistines if they had walked according to the principles of God. Because Israel, having God over them, is a theology, is a theocracy rather, and having a theocracy is not a democracy. The people don't rule in a theocracy. In a theocracy, God rules. And whenever he gives his principles and lays out what his parameters are for your life, if you walk within the boundaries of those parameters, you will have no enemies to defeat you. Didn't you read very carefully in Numbers how he outlined, and again in Deuteronomy, how he outlined to the letter how they should operate when they got into the promised land? Didn't he even tell them, Joseph, what they had to eat and what they shouldn't eat, and how they should behave, and how they should treat their neighbors, and how they should treat even the people that are foreign when they come to the land? He gave them a manual that covered everything he wants. And then he turned around and gave them some promises. He told them none of these diseases and would come upon you, and that you would be blessed going out and coming in if you just followed my principles and just lived according to my edicts and my maxims and my tenets, that none of these problems would be upon you. I look at my own life and I can tell you that many of the problems I have had them because I was walking outside of the principles of God. And when I walk outside of those principles, then I'm vulnerable to my enemies. My enemies can't get me when I'm walking according to the principles of God. And the only time they can get me is if I'm having a Job experience. And that is an experience that is not apropos to my behavior. An experience that is outside the parameters of my behavior, which means then that God is raising me up to another level to deposit a greater thing in my life and in my pocket. Ooh, I feel like shouting on that one. Every time you get and have to face a challenge doesn't mean that you're going to be less after the challenge. Sometimes it takes that challenge. No. Most times it takes that challenge. No. All the time it takes that challenge to build you to another level and to fit you for what God is about to deliver into your hands. I'm quoting from Harry Emerson Fosdick, and he says, the central business of every human being is to be a real person, unquote. And oftentimes we realize that we possess in nature the factors out of which personality can be made. And what God has to do with us in every way is to organize them into an effective personal life. And that is every man's human responsibility. And that is to know all of my gifts, all of my relationships, all of my experiences, and organize them. And that is my primary responsibility. No gift should be wasted. No relationship should be ignored. Nothing about you should be ignored. No challenge, no good time, no bad time, because I read somewhere where all things work together for good to them that love God and are the called according to his purpose. Some good's gonna come out of this. Some good's gonna come out of this. I might be crying, but some good's gonna come out of this. Something wonderful's going to come out of this. You tried to stop me from that, but God gave me this. Some good is coming out. Just tap somebody real carefully for the first time and say, some good is going to come out of your situation. A marvelous thing is getting ready to happen. It is interesting that this journey to efficient personal life begins as an infant, really. The rudiments of personal life is in every infant. And if all goes well, he or she will grow up to be self-conscious, organism with the capacities of memory, thoughtfulness, with the capacities of purposefulness, and also affection. You see, oftentimes when you're in the middle of something horrific, where something didn't go your way, oftentimes you have forgotten what God has already done. I think a few weeks ago the disciples were saying to Jesus, saying to themselves that he is rebuking us because we didn't bring any bread. And Jesus' response to them was, you all must have forgot. You're all talking about not bringing bread. Remember when I fed 5,000 with a few loaves and fishes? You got to remember, in the middle of a storm sometimes we forget that we have been through storms before. And God has brought us out over and over and over again. And then we should remember not only that he brought us out in the past, but that he has anointed us for a purpose. And if that purpose has not been fulfilled, there is no devil in hell that can stop you from performing your purpose. And then you have to understand his love. And when he loves you, when the love of God is shed abroad in your heart, it brings hope that maketh not ashamed. So not only do I have to look at my past, I look at my present, and because I know I have a purpose, I can look into the future. And this now makes man unique in the universe. This makes us different from any other creature, because we are an organism that is conscious of our own being, that can remember, that can think, that can have purpose and have love. And all of these things are very personal. So in a rudimentary degree, these attributes are possessed in animals rudimentarily. But in man, they have attained a development that differentiates from anything that is in our ken and constitutes then our essential nature. I am here, but I am evolving. I am progressing. I am always growing. I'm always becoming. And each challenge is just an indication that I have moved to a place where now I need a test. And if I pass this test, I'll get on another level. And I will move on that level to the place where I have to have another test. And after the next test, I go to another level. You want to go to levels without tests, it's not going to happen. Y'all excuse me, they told me this morning to save some for this service, because many times I burn out early because I'm not fit. But I'm going to be fit after a while if the Lord just helps me. We all have this at birth. We all have it. However, with the making of personal life, their successful organization has to be in a unified and efficient personality. I've got to know what I've been through. I got to know who came through it with me. And I've got to know how to depend on him for the next level. And that's why in the human experience, things put us together. I mean, it makes you who you are. And if you're powerful at all, I can tell how powerful you are by the enemies you have. Show me who don't like you, and I'll show you where you have become. because certain people not liking you don't matter, but other people are in position to move against you, and God has to give you the power to be able to handle even 9.5 tall Goliath. Oh, I'm telling you, he's putting you together. I feel it here. I feel it. Man then is the only creature that consciously helps to create himself. You've got to understand that you have to take part in creating yourself, and that's by your thought pattern. You can think yourself into depression. I did enough of that these last few months, and you can think yourself out of depression. And you need people around you who understand what you're going through when you're going through it, and don't add to your I feel like dancing on that one. Let me take a dance break. Ooh, okay, I got it in. You've got to have people around you, because sometimes people don't mean any harm. As I noted this morning, and I see it clearer now, that I have no judgments for people who don't seem to be there for you when you're going through, because each one of us sees what we're going through as monstrous. We see what we're going through. If I know you're going through over there, but I'm going through over here, and I'm going through, and mine looks so bad to me that I don't even have time to reach out to you, because each one of us sees our own problem as the biggest problem in the world. So while I'm over here crying about my problem, hoping you be kind to me, I must remember that you have a problem that's staring at you like I have a problem that's staring at me. But here's what I understand. God is going to build me to the point where I can handle my problem and still bless you. I feel it here. That's growth. Touch somebody for the second time and say, that's growth. Growth is when I can stare at my Goliath and still help you kill yours. I'm telling you, man gotta create himself by his thoughts, and that's why you stay in positive things. You stay in positive arenas. You listen to positive things, because it helps to build who you are, to make you that efficient personality that constitutes an essential nature for the victory over everything that comes our way. Professor William Hawking, he says this: of all animals, it's in man whom heredity counts the least. The conscious building forces count the most, unquote. We're not like the animals in that we are bred to be a certain way, because animals are bred to be a certain way. My little Yorkie back there, that little Yorkie back there has a certain attitude, and I have had to spend money because he decides to bite big dogs under their chins. And I noted that everybody with a Yorkie has the same problem. When I'm walking my little Yorkie down the street, somebody picks up their Yorkie because their Yorkie wants to attack my Yorkie. But don't fool yourself. My Yorkie is ready. Ready for the fight. Yes, indeed. And I found out that it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but it's the size of the heart in the dog. But we are not like that. With us, our infancy is longer than any other animal, which means we have to be cared for. We have to be watched. We have to be nurtured. Because our infancy is longer than any other creature. If you look at the geography shows, you will find that the wildebeest comes out born running from the lion. I mean, just as soon as that thing is born, it sets around a little bit, next thing it's running. We are not like that. If you put one of us down after birth, we will be consumed. The lion will have to have a toothpick. He'd get rid of us so quick. Our instincts are less fixed. My brain is most unfinished at birth. My powers for habit making and habit breaking are most pronounced. I think we just take too much from the devil. We just don't know how powerful we are. And we let him send these wolf tickets because they look awfully big. We act like we ought to run and hide. The devil is a liar. Oh, God, I feel like shouting in here. I am refusing to make you think for me about who I am, because I am not like everybody else. Oh, you need to say that to yourself. I need you to help me. Repeat after me. I am not like everybody else, and my uniqueness is going to put me where God will have me to be. Oh, it seems then to me that nature as a prescriptive power has structured man for his own displacement, and all of the creatures' nature pretty much finished, but man has to finish himself. That's why I'm growing every day, because I'm educating myself every day. And that's why God's plan is to educate. And he says, my people perish from a lack of knowledge. Oh, you didn't know I was going to come and help you, so you sat there and just died. But all I needed you to do was to get up, because the enemy was already crushed. He's coming with a spear and a sword, but you're coming in the name of the Lord, and there is no weapon that's formed that can destroy the name of the Lord. Oh, I wish I wasn't so tired, but I feel a help coming on. That's why the thief cometh, not thought of nurturing, all selfish and self-centered. One writer said, and I quote, I think this is Fosdick again, that human happiness is at stake. In the success or the failure of this undertaking seems clear. No external good fortune can bring abiding enjoyment to a half-made, unorganized personality, unquote. I don't care what you do for folk who don't have themselves together. It'll never work out, because if they're unorganized as a personality and half-made, they won't understand your kindness. They won't be able to grasp your love. They will look at your confidence as arrogance. They will look at your self-assuredness as you thinking you're better than they are. No, I don't think I'm better than you are, but I think you can be better than you are. Must I say that again? I don't think I'm better than you are, but I think you can be better than you are right now. So if I stand back and wait for you to grow, don't think I don't want to be around you. Somebody give God the praise. While they work that out, whatever that is, give God some glory in his house. And so now people end up frustrated, disintegrated, inhibited, unhappy people who cannot match themselves with life and become efficient personalities. And this constitutes the greatest single tragedy in the world. And that is, you're gifted but you don't go anywhere. That is because people try to stop you. But if I got news for you, your gift will make room. It don't matter how they want to close you in and want to hold you in. I feel the Holy Ghost. The miracle God is about to perform in your life. The only thing left is loose the man and let him go. I feel it here. God has brought you up out of all kinds of situations, and folk want to keep you bound. Keep you bound in the shallowness of their own thinking. Keep you bound in the uneducation of their own relationships. Keep you bound in the ignorance of their own inability to perform. Keep you bound. But God told me they're going to have to loose you and let you go. I feel it. I'm almost there. I feel a little shout coming on. Give somebody a high five for the third time and say, neighbor, I'm about to get loose. I'm about to get loose. I'm about to get loose. Touch somebody else for the fourth time. Say, I got my slingshots. I'm getting ready to fire at this giant. I'm getting ready to go to this giant. I'm getting ready to talk to this 9-foot tall physical specimen and let him know your body's 9 feet tall, but my spirit is 25 feet. Oh, God, I feel him here. And so, you see, for me to avoid being living dead, it pushes me into that place where I have to move in the place of God. I guess you realize when I came up to this pulpit, I wasn't going to be on the floor today. I came to holler today. I came to let the enemy know no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And so then Niebuhr says, to be a self is to have a God, because you cannot have a God without having self, and you cannot have self without having God. So the trust and the faith of the heart alone make God both God and idol. For two, faith and God hold close together. Whatever then thy heart clings to, that properly is thy God. While they were clinging to their weapons, David was clinging to the name of the Lord. I might as well have a little church in here. One that has no sense of being real without identity. I don't identify with the cowards. I don't identify with folk that want to back up. What David is saying is, I don't identify with my older brother who should know better, because his name is God is Father. But my name, I feel like preaching, my name is beloved or friend. And when you put both together, David's name is favor. You got the weapons, but I got the favor. You've got the position, but I've got the favor. Y'all over there got the giant, but I'm over here with the favor. Now let me put giant against favor and see who's going to come out all right. I just came to tell you that you can't match favor. You don't have to have anything going with you but favor. Give somebody a high five. Tell them the reason I'm still here is I got favor. I got favor with God. I got favor with the anointing of the Lord God Almighty. And I don't need a big and a lot of weapons. They put Saul's weapons on him, and he told them, I haven't proved these weapons. I can't pray your prayer. I can't talk your testimony. I've got to have one for myself. Can I preach like I feel it? Give somebody a high five for the 6th time and say, neighbor, your testimony can't help me right now. I need a testimony for myself. And my testimony is I took care of the bear and I took care of the lion, and I'm going to take care of this uncircumcised big mouth. Can I preach like I feel it? Goliath's name means conspicuous. Can I preach? I feel something in here. And David came from obscurity. Because don't you remember, they overlooked David. They went through every boy and they didn't look for David till he asked him, do you have another son? And he said, yes, I have another boy, but he's out in the woods. Give somebody a high five for the seventh time and say, neighbor, I came from obscurity, but I took care of conspicuous. Can I preach like I feel it? Everybody trying to be conspicuous will be taken care of. When they try to loudmouth you, try to badmouth you, and they do it so conspicuously. When they talk about you like a dog, am I a dog that you're coming with me with stage? But this day, God's gonna take you out of obscurity and bring down the conspicuous. I don't care how big that enemy is. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I feel a shout coming on. Pull on your neighbor. Said it don't matter how big the sword is. It don't matter how big the shield is. It don't matter how much position they have. Let that big boss keep messing with you. It don't matter whether he's the CEO or the COO. It don't matter whether you just milking in the mail room. You got the anointing. You got the favor and God. Somebody turn around. Turn around one time. And God is getting ready to turn it all the way around. It's coming round. I got my slingshots round and around. I got 5 of them. I got the number of grace, but I'm swinging it in the name of Jesus. I come in the name of the Lord. I come to give him praise. I come to shut the mouth of every giant, for the weapon of our warfare is not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Is coming down. Is coming down. Is coming down. Sickness is coming down. Sorrow is coming down. Pain is coming down. Being hurt is coming down. Poverty down. Being broke. Sling that shot. Sling it. Let it go in the name of the Lord. What's his name? Jesus. 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 Now that he's down, I got the sword, the word of God, which is the sword of the Spirit. And now that I got him down, I'm gonna take him out. You ain't gonna bother me no more. I might have another test, but it ain't gonna be you. Somebody shout, I got him down. I'm getting ready to take him out. Take him out in the name of the Lord. Devil, your head is on the mouth. Give somebody a high five for the last time and say, walk on that problem's head. Walk on it. leg is thanksgiving. I'll praise him till I get it. When I get it, I'll thank him. My marching orders: praise, thanksgiving, praise, thanksgiving. Now pick it up.